morning. This is Wednesday. What is the date today? What is the date? We're almost to, it is the 30th of December. One more day. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and then we will have New Year's. And I'm so excited for 2021. And I hope all of you had a fabulous Christmas. We did. We had the girls over. It was very nice, enjoyable. My mom came. It's just a really nice Christmas. Small gathering. We did have our traditional Christmas Eve at church. Our church hasn't been going on, but we did have that. We did have to wear our masks. They didn't do any of the traditional, we usually give gifts, pass gifts out. We didn't do any of that. Everybody just had to stay in their seat, watch. We didn't have, it was like a very, very toned down version of our Christmas program, just very simplified. Had a small sermon, and that was it. It was like totally different than what we usually do, but it was still nice to have service. We're not having any services until probably a couple more months. So anyway, we are going to be talking about knowing your numbers. I swallowed wrong. Sorry. And here's the deal. If you don't know your numbers, if you don't know what to charge, you're never going to make any money. You're going to be painting furniture, and the thing is, sometimes we don't realize how little we make an hour doing something until we crunch the numbers. It's just one of those things we don't really I don't know why this is not coming up. There we go. We are talking about chapter 2, knowing your numbers. And so anyway, I've got some notes here. I set them aside. Now I got to find them. Okay, first we're going to talk about your hourly rate. You just have to figure out, everybody's hourly rate is a little bit different. When I started out in the decorative painting industry as doing faux finishes on walls and stuff, about 15 years ago, I had decided that I wanted to make, I basically, the way I did it was I went and I said, okay, I want to make a minimum of $500 a week. I want to make a minimum of $500 a week painting. So then I said, okay, and now I want to work this many hours. Well, I took my kids to school. And I picked them up from school. So I had like a shortened work day. And then there was some days I couldn't work. So I came up with that's how I came up with my hourly rate, is I knew I needed to work this many hours. I only worked 2 days a week. So I came up with $40 an hour. Because I knew that the time I was actually working was going to be 2 days a week. So my hourly rate was about $40 an hour. So that's how I came up with it. So you have to kind of, to help figure your hourly rate, what you want to charge. You got to figure out how many hours you want to be working on furniture, how many hours you want to be hunting for furniture and go and finding it, bringing it back to your house. All of this is your time table and the time that you're spending on something. So you want to You want to think about all of that. Going to pick up the piece, finding the piece on Facebook, going to pick it up, bringing it back to your shop. The prep it needs, if does it need repaired, all of those things we need to think about, and all of that time. And we have to say, okay, you know what? I've only got 20 hours a week that I can devote to actually painting furniture. So if you got 20 hours a week and you want to make, and then you decide how much money you want to make in that week. And yeah, you might not sell a piece every week, but you're still averaging. You're trying to figure an average here. So right now I charge $40 an hour for my painted furniture. My decorative finish company, my hourly rate has went up to $75 to $80 an hour for that, because that is more of a specialized market. So that has went up. But my painting is $40 an hour. Now, sometimes I do furniture for designers, custom pieces for designers, and a designer here in, and I think a lot of places designers do this. They have a showroom that they when somebody buys a piece, they have a warehouse. The guy that does all the deliveries here in the Des Moines area, he has a warehouse. So then when Jane is having one of the designers here all new furniture for her house, and you know how furniture, they're all delivered, so they come in at different times. So basically every piece gets delivered to the warehouse. The warehouse guy looks them all over and makes sure that they're all like, there's no damage to them, they're all the right color, everything is as it should be. And then when that entire order for that client comes in, then he sets up a delivery and they deliver and they do the house. They bring out all the furniture and then the pillows, and then the designers bring out the pillows and the pictures and all the other stuff, and they stage the entire house. So a lot of times, sometimes what I'll end up doing for designers on a custom side is I do two things for designers. I do either if their client, Jane, has a piece from grandma that she doesn't want to get rid of, and it doesn't match the new color scheme, the new style of the house, they will call me. They will give me sometimes they pick off of my samples that I have, and other times they don't. Other times they pick, they will give me a sample. Typically, a lot of designers here like hickory chair. Hickory chair is a very traditional farmhouse, modern farmhouse furniture. And they have all of the furniture samples, and they will give me a hickory chair sample, and then I will replicate it. I will replicate it on that piece of furniture because it's easy for them, and they can show it to the client, and the client, is all for it. Or another thing I do for I do for designers here too is sometimes a piece will come in and it's damaged, or when recently there was a very large hutch that came in, and it came in where the interior was blue. And it was not supposed to be blue. So she gave me the color, and then I went out to the studio where there's all this furniture. So I had to cover all the furniture around there to make sure nothing got anything on it. And this high-end furniture, and paint the inside of this cabinet the new color. Or I did, we had a table come very modern table came, and it was gold, and it was the wrong color gold. So then I went out to the warehouse and redid it. And this is it's kind of like what I call the unsung hero thing. And the reason why is because the homeowners never know that I did this. I go to the warehouse, I paint it, the piece gets delivered. They have no idea that the piece was even damaged, that it didn't come in the right color. I did everything from painting one designer had a 6-foot wide metal orb chandelier, an orb chandelier that she ordered in gold, thinking it was beautiful. And they hung it, the electricians hung it, and the guy comes, and it was in this huge foyer. And the guy comes and he's like, it's the wrong color. It's supposed to be silver. And the gold looks good, but he apparently thought that she was getting silver. Well, it had been hung. It couldn't get returned. You're talking probably 10 grand for this chandelier. So what they do is they call me, bring the chandelier to me, and I repaint it in the correct color. It gets hung, and as far as the homeowner knows, that's a new chandelier. They don't even know. So I get kind of to be, and I can't talk about, this is the kind of stuff that you can get into and do in furniture painting that I can't talk about. I can only talk about privately. I can't talk about it. I can't even mention it on social media because it would just be detrimental to my clients for, for them to see it, for one of my clients to see it. It's kind of like doing plastic surgery, but you can't show it because your client doesn't want anybody to know they had plastic surgery. So it's a little like that. So those are some extra things you can do. So you got to decide what you're worth. Got to decide what you want to make. Maybe you only want to make $10 an hour. It's fine. It's fine. I would suggest a little more. I would suggest around 30 to start out. When I do 40, because I know that the price point for painting furniture, that's the cap. If somebody brings me a piece and I'm painting it, designer brings me a piece and I'm painting it in my shop, I'm working on other things. I can do a coat on it, let it dry, work on something else, go in the house, work on office stuff. So I am only charging for the time. I keep track of my time very carefully, and I'm only charging for the time that I'm actually working on the piece. I wonder if I can get rid of this banner. Hide. There. I'm going to hide that banner. And so I'm only charging for the time that I'm actually working on the piece. Now, there is times that like I said, I'll go to this warehouse and then I'm there and I have to paint it. And then sometimes I'll bring out fans. I'll bring out a little heater to get things rolling and keep things drying. But if, let's say I do a prime coat and I have to wait on it to dry, well, they're kind of paying me for my dry time to wait. Obviously, if it's going to take the next day, then I'll leave. But most of the time, it's just an hour or so. So they're paying me to watch paint dry. It's kind of the same thing if I go to a client's house and they have an armoire. Sometimes they'll be like, well, I don't want to pay you to have it delivered. I don't want to pay you to bring it back to your place. So you come here, well, probably technically it's probably going to run about the same because you're paying me for my, you're paying me for my dry time. So, those are something to consider. So you want to make sure, depending on, so sometimes I'll tell them, if you can bring it to me, it's probably going to be cheaper for you because I can work on other things. And you've got to know, do a time study. When you first start working on pieces, write down when you started priming, when you finished it, what piece it was. These are all good information. That's one thing about my intake sheet, because the intake sheet that I just put this in the units. Is it lists everything, so you can't forget anything. How to prep, molding, veneers, one color finish, and go ahead and write your time down. So then the next time you're going to do this, like write your estimate, and when you're doing your estimate, and then go back and take this sheet and write down the times that it actually took you to do it. And then you have a study, a hard copy study that you can use and say, okay, this was a buffet and this took me this long to do. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to, so then that way, when you go back, you have something you can refer to the next time you have to bid a piece. So you want to have like the more detailed you can get your time, the better you can estimate the next piece of furniture that you're going to paint. And I usually end up telling people, sometimes even on decorative painting jobs, I'll give somebody an estimate and they'll say, wow, that's kind of high. That's kind of high. And I'll say, well, yeah, but here's the deal. It's based on my time and materials. It's based, a lot of times I'll say it's based on this, and I did this enough that I'm really accurate. I'm super accurate. And this is my estimated time. And no, it's not cheaper if I do it in less time, but it's also not more if I do it in more time. So, they understand that it goes both ways. This is what I'm saying, my bid. Don't forget about the BLTs, the bite licks, and what I call the bite licks and the taste. I got this because I was in Weight Watchers. And if you've ever been in Weight Watchers, you go in, you think you did real good all week. You just behaved yourself. You wrote down, you tracked everything. And you're like, you go in there and you get on the scale and you gained 1/10 of a pound. And you just sulk. You're just like, what in the world? I worked so hard. Well, and you can't figure out what happened. Why you didn't have a win on the scale. Well, you didn't have a win on the scale because you didn't have the piece of cake that you made for Susie, your daughter. You didn't eat the piece of cake. But what you did do is lick the spoon before the cake was made. And you only had one bowl of chowder. And you wrote it down really good. You wrote it down really, really good. You only had one bowl of chowder. But you tasted that chowder over and over again. And so, or, there was a cookie sitting left on the count left, and you ate it and you didn't write it down. And you wonder why, what happened. Well, you basically thought you were doing everything you were supposed to be doing, but there was all these other little things, these bite licks of taste that got in the way. And so that's why I say sometimes it's what eats up our time is what eats up our money is the bite, licks, and tastes. It's the wood filler. You know, how many times, you go and I get mesmerized. I just went and bought some Dixie Belle paint and she sold me a new brush. Love it. Love the new brush. But I got to mark that down somewhere. Like, it's got to come out of something. Do I want it to come out of my pay, my hourly rate, the amount of money that I'm paying myself? No. Am I going to use this brush on my next piece of furniture? And is it going to make my job faster? Yes. Am I going to be able to paint the primer on this piece faster and better? Yes, because I used it and it works. So I need to add that in. Even if you add it in as you have all these items like wood filler, stencils, wood you bend, clamps, tape, even if you want to put them all in a category of their own and just divide them up and say, because you're not using the whole thing. If you want to even divide it up and say, okay, I'm going to divide these up and we're going to add 10% to the cost of the furniture of the piece that I'm painting for what we call bite, licks, and tastes or sundries. A lot of times we call it, in the paint industry, they're called sundries. So you can say, okay, I figured out my time. I figured out my materials. This piece is going to be $250. Well, you can add in 10%, $25 for sundries, and then that covers those. But you've got to figure out, or you can do a thing where you have a list of all of your products and how much you paid for them. And sometimes we do a thing like if I'm doing something where I'm using a lot of tape, okay, I used a half, like I go a fourth, a half, and then a full roll. So if I used a half a roll, I charge a half. If I used under a fourth, anything under a fourth, I charge 25%. So you can kind of do it that way too, but you need to make sure that you are adding in for all of those little items. Don't forget, add in all of the little items. Don't forget about all the, I'm going to type this, bite, licks, and taste. There we go. We're going to add that. So anyway, those are just things that you need to make sure. I also go and I'm always looking for the best deal. I'm always looking, where do you buy your products? The best product for the best price to do the best job. Best product, the best price to do the best job. And what does that mean? That means that I can go to the dollar store and I can buy a paint pan that isn't going to work for a wall because they're slightly too off-sized for a 9-inch roller cover, but they work absolutely great for a whiz roller cover. And they also work really great as like a paint palette. And they're $1. So those are some things that you need to know. I also know my Sherwin-Williams dealer. I go to the same Sherwin-Williams store. I go to the same Benjamin Moore store. They know me. They know what I do. When a client comes in and wants something painted, they call me. They ask me. Another thing I do, and I don't do it now because of COVID. I don't go into the store quite as much as I used to right now because of COVID. But after this is eventually going to be over. I'll go in and I'll hear somebody ask something and I'll answer for them. And, I'll help. I'll kind of answer for them and I'll tease and I'll go, you would think I worked here. Well, the thing is that the people in the store that work there hear me answer and they understand that they're like, hey, this gal really knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's talking about. So those kind of things are helpful. They will send you work. When somebody comes in and wants something done, they know you. They feel like they trust you, so they will send you work. And I can't stress enough on how you need to know. We're going to go back to how long you need to know for each task. How long to prime, how long to paint, how long and I'm going to write this again. I'm going to write another one. How long to complete each, and I don't know, maybe I can write these ahead of time. Prime, paint, wax, glaze, blend. So you want to know all of these. You want to know how long it takes to do all of these things. This will give you the best, closest estimate that you can do. And if you don't know how long it takes to do certain tasks, you won't be able to estimate your time in the future. And I forgot, we need to talk about, so I just had my daughter, my husband went to my sisters, and basically they had a French provincial dresser that they didn't want anymore. They had bought off a Craigslist for their daughter, never painted it. They got her brand new furniture. My husband brings it back to me because he's got it in the road, and I see it in the truck, and I'm like, whose is that? And he's like, well, it's yours if you want it. And I'm like, well, you don't have to ask me twice. Like, of course I want it. Do I ever turn down a good piece of furniture? So anyway, I've already stripped the top. Well, this is a French provincial dresser. It's a Dixie French provincial. No, it's not Dixie. It's Thomasville. French provincial dresser. So the fact that it's Thomasville, if I go to Marketplace and I look for an unfinished Thomasville French provincial dresser like this one, the cost to buy one is probably in my area is around $125. So when I get this piece done and I figure in all my material costs, you can bet your bottom dollar that $125 is going to be on there. It's going to be on there. I'm going to put it on there. Because here's the deal. I need my pieces to be marketed in the same price range. That's a lot of money. And if I was to price my French provincial dresser done $125 cheaper, I may have Sally come along and see that it was cheaper, and then the next one I have, they're wondering why the price is more. So you need to market, you need to charge, and even if I get a good deal on something, you have to make sure that you're adding in for what its actual value is. not necessarily what you paid for it. It's the value and what it's worth at that moment in time. Also, it keeps all of the market from being low, what we call low ball, where it's all like really low, and it keeps the market higher. And I see this all the time where people paint a piece and you're like, how? Well, I just got the piece. I just got it for free. Well, but that's not building your industry. You have to build your industry. So you want to make sure that you're charging for each of your pieces. Because otherwise, that's what people will expect from you in the future. And so, and also, there's something to be said. People think that, oh, if I sell something cheaper, somebody's going to buy it faster. But there is a direct correlation between a higher price and higher quality, whether we like it or not. And if you want to be known for high quality, you need to make sure you are charging accordingly. And so our equation, the way we figure it out is we have how our furniture, how much did we pay for the piece, or how much it is worth, plus the materials and the paint and all the supplies to do the job, times plus the time, how long it took to paint a piece, including repairs, travel time, staging time. If you're bringing that piece in and you are staging it, if it's a custom piece for a client and I'm staging it for my own. I'm staging it for my own advertising. I don't charge them. They don't, it's for me. It's strictly for me so I can use it in my advertising. I can use it on my website. But if I'm selling the piece, I have to stage it to sell it. That has to be added in. All that time that it takes to stage it, that's part of your advertising. That's part of your marketing. You have to you have to add that into your time. If you're buying staging pieces, just to stage a piece, that needs to go into your time. That needs to go into your thing. The retail price is the amount you make to break even. The way we come up with the retail price is we take our hourly rate times our time, that's your labor. And then we add in the cost of the piece plus the material plus the labor, and that is your retail price. Retail price is not profit. Retail price is what we have to make. That's what we have to make to break even. My suggestion is to take that price and add 10%. Because there's probably something that you have forgot. Second of all, anything over that is profit. So if I estimate, so let's say, I'm just going to throw this out there. And then how do we start to make our profit larger? Well, the way we make our profit larger is we find pieces that are cheaper, but will still sell for more. We get pieces at a less cost, such as free, or like I got that Thomasville dresser. That will make, even though I'm charging for the piece, makes my profit higher. That will be $125 profit I will make extra. We watch where we get our supplies. So we use the best products for the best price, for the best dollar point, to do the best job. And then that way we can watch how much money we're spending. And the less money we spend, the more profit we make. And then the third thing we can do, now I lost my train of thought, is our time. The more you do something, the faster you get at it. I have a cleaning lady that comes. When she first came to look at my house, she went around and she's like, she charges $25 an hour. She says, okay, this is going to take me 4 hours. 4 hours, $100. Okay, it's $100. Well, she's did my house enough every 2 weeks for 2 years that she now does it in 3 hours. So she makes $25 profit. So if you figure your time and you've did your time studies and you've wrote down how much time it takes to do an item, and you get this item done 15 minutes faster, you just made, on a $40 an hour, so you made $12. If you got it done 15 minutes faster, you made about $12. So that's 12. So that's, and the faster you get and you keep your time the same, you can adjust your time. Sometimes we adjust our time and then we adjust our hourly rate. We can make our hourly rate higher. So there are some finagling, different things I don't know if finagling's the word, but there's some things you can do. But that is, so basically that's how you can raise your profit. And you want to make sure you are making some kind of profit on every piece you do, even if it's only $5. You don't want to just be paying yourself. And then what I do is I take my profit, I have what I paid for my supplies, and then what I paid myself, and then my profit goes back into my furniture company. And I use that for advertising. I use that for Facebook ads. I use it to buy extra products. That's what I use my profit for. The profit does not go to me. The profit goes to my business so that I can increase my sales and increase my business. Right now, so that's how I use my profit. It's a great way to use your profit. It's a great way to make you feel like you need to make a profit, because you don't want to be running a Facebook ad, or you don't want to have to be buying a new software program or anything like that and having to take out of your wage, your money that you're paying yourself to pay all of these things. You want to use your profit to do that. And my profit always goes back into my company to build my business. And so you can increase your again, remember, anything over the retail price is profit. Profit is good. Increase your profit by paying less for a piece of furniture. Use materials. You can even use materials you have left from another job. Part of knowing your numbers also is this, as I said, the intake sheet, I think that I put in chapter 1 in the units is very helpful. You can write down your hour, as it says, how much number of coats, the color name that you're using, hour, how many hours, how much dollars an hour. You write down how many dollars an hour and your cost. I keep this, I usually have a client folder, and I keep this in the folder. I'm a very visual person, so I will keep this in the folder along with if there's a sample, a picture of a sample they gave me. I keep it all together, and then when I head out into my shop, I take it with me. If I forget it, it doesn't get filled out. And they're great references. I have it with me, and I start writing down all the different things. When they bring me a custom piece of furniture, So I have everything down that we talked about. So there's no discrepancies in anything that we talked about. So I hope that this helped you. I hope that you watch this. It looks like we're going to have some people on the replay, and that's great. If you have any questions, you can always pop them in the comments. And thank you so much. I hope this really helps you. Next week on Wednesday, we are going to go into chapter 3, which is how to charge for pickup and delivery. I'll tell you a little bit more about what I use, how I use it, how much I charge, all the different things like that. Insurance, we'll get into that. So, because you want to have insurance when you're delivering and picking up furniture. So thank you. Have a great day. I will see you in the new year. So, yeah, thank you very much. And I will see you next year.